From an undisclosed location high in the Hollywood Hills, it's time once again for the long shot. Come hell or high water. Tonight's episode, Norman Lear, Dressage, and parking too close to the driver's side door. And now please welcome the host of the long shot, Sean Conroy. Thank you so much. Welcome to The Long Shot. It is a podcast. Good desk. Welcome to our pod desk. I am your host. My name is Sean Conroy. With me today on the show is Amber Kenny.
Hi.
Not present, as always, Joe Wagner and Jamie. Is it Flom or Flam?
Who's to say?
But here's Amber and myself with a lot going on, a lot to talk about. We almost, or I at least, thought just now that there was an earthquake in Los Angeles. It seems there was not, or if there was, I was the only one who noticed. Although, as Amber pointed out, it could have just been somebody driving into my building, which would be quite an event on its own.
The chicken lady.
Oh, God, yes. I thought I saw her the other night, but then I did not hear any chickens, so maybe it was not her. Maybe it was somebody else living in their Range Rover with lots of detritus in the back seat.
She's like related to Gonzo.
Yeah, that was always a weird thing about Gonzo. Like, what was Gonzo's deal? Was he a bird? He kind of wanted to fuck all the chickens.
He wanted to fuck chickens. I don't think he was a chicken. He just was sexually attracted to them.
I guess it's incredibly erotic to fuck a chicken and then chop its head off while you're fucking it.
Oh my God.
And I only know that because I read Naked Lunch by William Burroughs, and he talks about that. Or maybe it's ducks. I can't remember, but it's something about like he's in, I don't know, Morocco or Algeria, and that's like a specialty of the house that he goes to is that they put a duck on your dick and chop its head off, and it just goes crazy, and that's like the coolest.
Oh, and it feels really.
Yeah.
Oh God, what is wrong with?
And who knows if that was even a real thing or if he just made that up? You know, like I just don't. It sounds possible. It sounds plausible, you know. But it would be quite a journey to get to that point where you're like, what if we try, Bob? What if we tried this? What do you think about this? You think this might work?
Yeah, you got to be in a desperate state to be pulling.
Like, what's the list of things they tried before that?
You know? I'm also just picturing my sweet parents like eating breakfast, listening to that.
Sorry, you guys. Apologies. All right. Well, we're here. Let's talk about a lot of things. I have you been watching the Olympics at all?
The tiniest bit. I saw some of the dressage yesterday on my lunch break.
Dressage, of course, is the equestrian event. Is that correct?
It's the horse dancing. Like.
Oh, okay. So it's not like steeplechase. It's not like they're doing anything. They're just kind of dicking around.
What's funny is they have choreography to music.
Mm-hmm.
And this might be hack. People might have talked about this.
What's constantly. The deal with these dancing horses?
No, but the writers are dressed very like proper writing, you know, like very put together. And you know, the horses are beautiful, they're horses, whatever. And then they're like dancing to like gasolina. Like it doesn't make any sense.
Like that was not always the case in dressage. It wasn't always like the latest hits.
Well, and I would argue Gasolina is not the latest hit.
That just came out like a couple of weeks ago, right?
But again, I didn't watch it for a long time. I am no expert in dressage, but it feels like they train the horse to, I'll do this, like trot on different feet at different rhythms. And they have the music there to like showcase that it really stays on rhythm and it like switches feet at a cool time or whatever. But it's strange. And it's strange that the person riding the horse gets the prize. Like, what's he doing? Like, I'm
not
sure
not the horse.
Yeah, the horse is the one. And
The
the
rider's
horse.
just sitting there.
Also, Jeff brought this up. How do the horses get to Japan?
I believe by caravan.
Go on. Like boat? Plane?
Overland. Marco Polo. Didn't he go to Asia by the Silk Road? Wasn't that
I don't know.
Japan is an island country.
Just imagine these poor horses being like, where am I? What happened? I'm the horse equivalent of jet lagged.
And we know that these are not horses that were like the riders don't hook up with the horses when they get to Japan.
No, yeah.
It's not like they go, you're going to deal with whatever horse you get. Right. You get the horse you get. It's like bowling. It's like bowling shoes. Like you get whatever you get and you have to work with that, you know?
That would be an interesting sport though. If you just had to like figure out choreography on the fly with whatever horse you're getting. That I'd watch.
I would also like to see one where the rider, and maybe they do this, I don't know, but like the rider gets off the horse.
Oh, and they do like a boogie woogie.
Just like an electric boogie, like passes the wave to the horse, like holds the horse by the foreleg and like.
Right. I know it's asking for too much, but it's just crazy to have such like party anthems playing. Mm-hmm. And the horse doesn't seem to be having a good time. Like there's a disconnect.
He's not into the party part. Yeah. And like you said, they're not, the people who are riding the horses are dressed like 19th century British nobles.
Right.
Basically.
They look like they could be in the royal family.
They're time travelers.
Yeah.
So it might be better if they were like, I don't know. Like backwards baseball hats and football jerseys?
I'm just spitballing here, but it would be cool if the horse and the rider had themed outfits that matched their song. Is that so much to ask?
So you're talking like Dancing with the Stars, but Dancing with the Horses.
Yes!
Like they're both dressed the same.
I feel like that's something people would watch. But I'd also want, and I don't know how to get this, but I want the horse to be into it. I want the horse to be like feeling the music. Because right now, the music just is an afterthought. The horse is like, I don't want to die, so I'm going to keep doing this.
Or the horse is not a fan of Gasolina. Like, what if it was like, hey, come on, man. How about some Who Let the Dogs Out? You know, another recent all
the young
hit.
kids.
Yeah.
Could I tell you something?
I've got the power. Yeah.
Can I tell you something adorable about the song Who Let the Dogs Out?
Mm-hmm.
Jeff, my husband, for listeners just tuning in now, I don't know why they would do that. But recently, I want to say like a year or two ago, about the song Who Let the Dogs Out, he was like, did you know that's not about dogs? I was like, I did. So
you're saying it's a metaphor?
It's misogynistic, like everything else is.
Welcome to American culture.
But like Disney adopted it. Like it was like a kid's song. It's crazy.
Right. I'm sure it's in lots of animated movies because it's an instant punchline.
Right.
You know, it's like a shortcut to laughs is play Who Let the Dogs Out. Mm-hmm. I was going to say I have a story about Who Let the Dogs Out, but it's actually not about Who Let the Dogs Out. It's about a different song like that. And I've already told the story, so I'm not going to get into it.
Damn. Can you give me a hint?
You know what I hear is amazing? Is if you fuck a horse and then somebody decapitates it while...
I mean,
I'm sorry, Amber's parents. I'm sorry.
Aristotle says that all drama is just sex and violence when you really boil it down.
And it doesn't get more sexy and violent.
That's what I was going to say. That's like a bang for your buck. Mm-hmm. It doesn't get sexier. That's a pull quote that you're going to regret.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know why I brought up the Olympics because I have not watched them at all. I've seen barely any of it.
Did you watch any of like the opening ceremonies?
None, absolutely none. I literally don't know anything that happened in the opening ceremonies.
I didn't either. This is great. Like, this should be the show. Just Sean and Amber talking about things they didn't experience.
Let's also talk about 19th century China.
But
the dishes, not the country.
It was on as I was doing something else, and I left the house. Doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
But you know how normally there's the parade or
the opening ceremonies, the pageant. Yeah.
And all of the countries come out behind their flag.
And we dress like this, and we dress like this, and the Italians talk with their hands. Yeah.
And they wave to the stadium crowd. Mm-hmm. Well, they made them do all of that.
With nobody there.
With no one there. And it was like this creepy fucking futuristic dystopian. Like, it made me feel ill. I was like, what's happening? Because it was
what a time to be alive. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the girl on fire. And then there's just no, it's just somebody. Ugh, what a nightmare.
Yeah.
At least it's going to end soon. It seems like, it's pretty much over at this point. All this.
The Olympics or COVID.
Either one. Either one. No, I watched the thing I watched the other night, which I thought was interesting, was, have you seen this Woodstock 99 documentary?
Yes, I just saw it.
Oh my God, we can talk about this because we both have experienced this.
Just throw my computer out the window. I'm too excited. Talk about something that made you physically ill.
So what were your thoughts?
Didn't like it. I mean, I liked the documentary, but
do you remember Woodstock 99 at all?
Vaguely. It's slightly before my time. Like, right. I kept doing the math, and I feel like everyone there was about 5 to 10 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So like, right. I just missed it. But ooh, baby. Like, it's I have a lot of thoughts, but it's funny when people are like, feminism, who needs that? And it's just like, please see Exhibit A. Like, no. It's I guess we're not even describing what it is for people who haven't watched it.
Describe the shit out of it.
It's a documentary about Woodstock 99, which was it was Firefest before Firefest, sort of.
They had been doing like big festivals for a few years before that. Lollapalooza, right. I think, started a little while before that, and
they
this
did
was sort
Woodstock 94, which was successful and like had good vibes. At least that's the way this movie presents it.
Right? Who knows what the truth is about anything anymore?
But it was just the height of the new metal.
Well, that was fascinating to me, was the whole new metal aspect, because that was not a thing that I was ever into or sort of like,
I can't imagine
processed in any way, like, yeah, it was just like, and then hearing so much of it all in a row, I was just like, oh my God.
Well, and I know hindsight and all of that, but like, every clip of every artist, with like the exception of Alanis Morissette and Jewel and DMX, you're just like, what? How are this many people into this? What is wrong with them?
And boy, were they into it. I mean, that was the crazy part of it too, was how excited everybody was, Well,
and it just felt very young, male, white, angry, and it came to a head. Like, they burned down shit and they tore down walls, and people were sexually assaulted.
It was Lord of the Flies. I mean, it was Lord of the Flies over the course of 3 days. And human nature, I shouldn't even say human nature, because I don't think that is human nature. It is a particular slice of human nature asserted itself over the course of those 3 days as circumstances got worse and worse. I mean, it was clearly poorly planned, and they didn't have all the stuff they needed, and it was incredibly hot during this thing, and they were charging people way too much for everything. And like, I was like, boy, $4 waters, what a bargain, but I guess in 99
20 years ago,
right,
and it was a 3-day festival.
Must not have been great water.
It was a 3-day music festival with multiple stages.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe 3 women were booked.
One total. Each day. Yeah.
Like
one each day.
What? Like,
well, that was also a funny thing to me. I mean, not really funny. It was funny, but it wasn't funny. I mean, it was funny, ha
not
ha,
funny,
but
ha,
not.
ha.
No, it was funny, ha ha, but also a little funny. Anyway, it was the promoters trying to defend everything they did. Like,
oh my god,
like this guy John Scher.
Oh, it was MTV's fault. It was MTV's fault for.
But also, like, there was no sexism. We just put the people we thought would do the best with the audience we had, and that's why we had one woman per day that was super weird. And also, this was another thing, because look, like I said, I am not a nu metal fan. I'm slightly into it. No, I'm not at all. But
oh, it's awful. Like it. Somebody says it in the documentary. So I'm saying that because it's not my idea, but it's like they take everything.
I know what you're going to say
about hip hop, and they
like just anything. The misogyny and the racism,
and like, yeah, but there's
not racism. What do they say? Misogyny and something else.
Homophobia.
Homophobia. That was the other thing. Racism. But also, like, hip hop is racist.
There's no like musicality, even like there's a beat, but that's it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of nu metal songs would work well for Dressage.
Honestly, I bet you there was a period that you saw that. Look at us being so brave, taking down nu metal.
Yeah.
A music genre that has been ridiculed for 20 years.
It was being ridiculed at the time. Like, it was even so stupid at the time.
But was so popular too
among certain populations. But he also, here's what another thing I thought was funny about those promoters was like they're promoting a rock and roll festival, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm saying rock and roll in quotes, but really it is a rock and roll festival. And rock and roll, there are certain baked in elements of what rock and roll is, one of the most important being that it is anti-establishment.
Right.
And so it really was hilarious to me.
They're like, no one was following the rules.
Well, not only that, but the moments where they were like, we went to Fred Durst before he went on stage and we said, can you just calm everybody down? And it's like, I just picture Fred Durst in that moment going, and same with Anthony Kiedis. Like, they talked about how Red Hot Chili Peppers played on the last night, and they played Fire by Jimi Hendrix as people were burning the fucking place down. And I just picture those guys backstage going, what is the fucking most rock and roll thing we can do in this moment? Should we tell everybody to calm down and take a breath and spread out a little? Or should we burn this motherfucker to the ground? And it's such a simple answer.
Right.
And it's like, why would you expect them to do anything other than what they did? And I, in a sense, I don't blame them for what they did. Like, they were doing what they were supposed to do as artists. I mean, it's hard to talk about Fred Durst as an artist, but you know what I mean? Like,
but there were dissenting voices. They showed The Offspring, when they started their set, they were like, hey, we've seen that some ladies are crowd surfing, and as that's happening, they're getting touched, and that's not cool. Like, stop doing that.
Right.
Which, like, I appreciated that they noticed that they didn't like it, and then they said something. I will say.
I agree, but I also feel like that's a different issue. Like, that's a completely different thing from, like, tell everybody to stop being so excited, you know?
Right. Well,
like,
and all of the
tell
songs,
people to stop breaking shit.
all of the songs' lyrics were like break shit.
Yes.
So it was a confusing message, even if you told them not to break shit.
And I would also say the Offspring thing where they said like don't do this, you know, which he
did say like beat them up.
Yeah, he goes, if you see a guy going overhead on a piece of plywood, grab him by the balls. And it's like, I get it, but it also sort of undercuts the entire message, you know?
How about let's not sexually assault anybody?
Yeah, or even like it just kind of turns the whole thing into a joke. Like by saying that, he's going, just kidding, you know?
And also now there's like parody.
Mm-hmm. Like, that those two things are the same.
Well, like, yeah, and that I can do it if you do it to me.
Yeah, anyway.
Well, the promoter also, the thing that really made my stomach turn, and it was like comically villainous, where he was like, yes, 10 women reported being raped there.
Right.
But so many women had their clothes off. So like, that's their fault. And it's like, do you hear yourself?
Right. Yeah.
Also,
I mean, it was such a like, I don't know when they recorded that, but it can have been.
It felt like from a different
long ago,
yeah.
But it felt from 50 years ago. Yeah. It felt like, and I'm not saying it was okay to say that back then, but that's such an attitude that is so in the distant past. And he's saying that now of like, well, they were asking for it.
And basically the film posits that way more than 10 women
hundreds more were
raped.
More. Yeah. 10
reported it, which tracks with rape statistics.
Right. And they had a woman, I mean, there were so many things about it, but like they had a woman who said, I sent out this email and all these people started responding and saying, yes, this happened to me,
just
whatever.
Like the most horrific things happened to
But
me.
then also talking about, I think it was one specific case, but I'm sure there were more than one peoples who felt this way. Sometimes I get lost in my own verbiage, but that they were like, I didn't even know who to report it to or how to report it. Right. Or like, it was just chaos. Like, it happened and I just wanted to get the fuck out of there. So yeah, I didn't report it.
And you know? I think that whole, they were asking for it mentality is internalized by the population.
Right.
So like I think it's such an act that you feel so much shame after anyway. Right. And if you at all feel responsible, like, you know what, you see where I'm going.
I do. Like, this is purely hypothetical, but like, let's say a woman was walking around in a pair of shorts with no shirt on and got assaulted and then went to report it. She then has to answer questions like, what were you wearing at the time? Oh, I was just wearing a pair of shorts. So you had no shirt on. Like all of a sudden she's putting herself in a position of like having to explain, yeah, I didn't have a shirt on, but like, that's not because I wanted to be raped, you know, right. So yeah, it was a pretty distressing, because I mean, I remember it happening, but I don't remember it being a big deal. And then when they were showing like the state police rolling through at the end and all that stuff, I was like, holy shit, like this was
and helicopters.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess it bummed me out because I kept doing like math of like how old are people and how old are they now, and like, oh, that tracks. Like that angry population is still angry.
Well, that's what I was thinking about too, was I feel like you could match up a lot of the footage during the hot dog water and the chocolate starfish guy, Fred Durst set, to the Capitol riot. I mean, literally down to the scaffolding, you know?
I bet you there's a Venn diagram of
people who were at both.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that was any great insight on my part, but that's all I could think the whole time was like, this is the same mentality that was present on January 6th.
And again, this was posited in the film, so I can't present it like it was my idea.
The film posits things.
No, but it was a population of young people who were angry, but not really at anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
just hard for me to wrap my head around because I get angry, but it's always about something. But
like, this at least gave them a place to do it communally. But it was so dangerous because, again, they posit that like past generations have fought against Vietnam or fought.
Right. They were angry about Vietnam at Woodstock 69.
But here, I think like I think there is something to like young people are just angry, but they showed all the news like the economy had never been better, and like there was nothing truly to be angry about. They were just angry.
I think there was an element that crept into some of the discussion that didn't really get accentuated of like maybe I'm just reading into this.
The Y2K stuff.
Well, there was the Y2K stuff, but also maybe people were starting to realize that the wealth gap was just widening and widening and widening, you know, that the haves were having more and the have-nots were having less, or the have-somes were becoming the have-nots. And, you know.
And that's like before we were where we are today.
Oh, way before. Yeah. I mean, it was sort of at the beginning of all that.
There was a middle class back then.
Right. Things were being destroyed. But here's another thing, because, you know, now we're talking about the Capitol riots, or at least we mentioned it. So the fucking lid is off on that.
We're going to talk about this documentary for 1.5 hours.
but no. I mean, just in reference to the documentary. So they show a little bit of DMX's set, where
it was also an upsetting piece.
Right. But I don't know. I mean, the Wesley Morris, the cultural critic who they cut to in that, is talking about how, you know, it's upsetting to see people. The song they show some footage of is a call and response version of, and you can't even say the name of the song anymore because it's My N-Words by DMX. And so he's saying the calls, and then the whole audience. There were hundreds of thousands of people there. I was thinking about that. Like, this is so stupid, but I was thinking about it in terms of like the Capitol riot. Like, imagine that was the crowd at the Ellipse for the Capitol riot, only in terms of the fact that if there had been that many people at the Capitol Ellipse, all we would have heard about after that was like, I think there were probably 200 or 300 million people there. There had to be at least 200 million. Very loving. There was a lot of touching, groping, feeling, pinching, you know.
There were some bad apples, but
yeah, right. But anyway, it was just a monstrous number of people. And so he would say his line, and then the whole crowd who were all doing their X's because would come back with my N-word. Like, so this guy's point was how scary it was that people wanted that permission to say the N-word. And I get where he's coming from, but I also feel like at that time,
wasn't.
Well, that word, like, I guess what I'm saying is like that word was a word that people used in songs that sort of took away from, this is such a terrible word. Like, it wasn't in conversation, but because DMX used it in his song, from my point of view, and who the fuck am I? I'm a fucking white guy who was in his late 70s at that time.
You look great.
Thank you. But to me, some of the power was missing from that word, which I contrast with, and that's the reason why I talk about the Capitol riots. The testimony at this hearing the other day where one of the Capitol policemen talked about how he told the rioters, they were like, nobody voted for Joe Biden. And he said, I mean, he's clearly trying to reason with these people in this moment and goes, I voted for Joe Biden. Am I nobody? And he said, this woman turns to the group and goes, hey, this N-word voted for Joe Biden, this effing N-word. Like, and then it's just like, it was like that was so shocking to me,
It's that's very upsetting.
That people, and I do think you can't blame all of it on one person. But I do think you can say that Donald Trump being president of the United States has made it way more okay for people to come out and say stuff like that and feel like you kind of would keep that to yourself, even if you felt that way for a long time. You would know
that it was
not cool. Yeah.
Bad.
And as he said, and this was like another thing where you're just like, oh my God, where he goes, nobody had ever called me the N-word while I was in uniform before. And it's like, yeah, first of all, this person is saying this to a cop. Like, what the fuck? And that he has to qualify, nobody ever called me the N-word when I was in uniform.
Right.
Like, of course they're going to call me. That just happens. People just call me that. Like, that happens. And that's the world we live in. And also, now they're just saying it to somebody who is an authority figure, But to hear him say that out loud, and you heard him say it in the hearing, then they played it on the news and they didn't like censor it or bleep it or anything.
Oh, wow.
And it just was like, it's still so horrific to me to hear that word out loud in that context, that somebody's saying that to another person. And maybe that makes me naive, but.
Right. No, well, because it's using it in the way that it's intended for it to be the most powerful, the most hurtful,
the most insulting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no and not that this would make it okay, but there's no irony. There's no.
And it's not being used in the way that DMX was using it, which was like, these are my people. Like, this is my people that I'm talking about, my friends, my N-words.
This is this is an other.
Right. This is a terrible thing. Really. And then, of course, the whole just the whole Fox News, like making fun of those guys and people saying that they're just mouthpieces for Nancy Pelosi. It just, the whole thing is so.
But it's also like the left doesn't like Nancy Pelosi. Like, what are we talking about?
Right. Nobody likes poor Nancy Pelosi.
Well, we haven't started checking in, but I was actually out of town, and when I came back, I was like, "Oh, what did you do while I was gone, Jeff?" And he was like, "I watched this Woodstock '99 documentary, and I actually don't want to talk about it right now because it was a huge bummer." And I was like, "Oh, I gotta see this! Like, you're really selling it." So I watched it.
Yeah, it's funny. I just turned it on for like 2 seconds last night, and I was like, this is literally what I said to myself, because I knew Dave Holmes was in it, friend of the show, Dave Holmes, and I was like, I'm just going to watch it until Dave Holmes comes on and see him once, and then I'm going to go to bed. And he was on in like 20 minutes, and then I just was like, I got to watch this.
I'm hooked. Yeah.
I watched the whole thing.
And even maybe it was Korn. I'm not exactly sure. I don't remember. But they had like dummies with the faces of Backstreet Boys.
Yes.
That
and then they beat them with bats. Yeah.
Yeah. And like even that I found really upsetting. Like, fine, you don't like that music. Do you need them dead? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, you can just not listen to that music.
Right. And that was a weird, but I think that was one of the weird things that they were commenting on was Carson Daly's show, like TRL Live, and how they had this weird confluence of like Christina Aguilera and Limp Bizkit on in the same countdown, even like, you know, and so people were like, oh, fuck those guys, like so angry about, you know, and that is something that I do remember is how much everybody just hated that element of pop music, the sort of Backstreet Boys, Oaktown 357.
Both sides are pretty bad.
Right, but I guess I never even felt any impact from like Korn and Limp Bizkit to me were always just nothing. Like they weren't a factor, whereas the other guys kind of were present in my consciousness. Like I saw them on TV and stuff, and I was like, oh, people hate these guys, you know, whereas the other guys I was like, I heard of Korn. I don't know who they are. I don't know what they do. Right. Maybe I saw a second of them and I was like, ugh, you know, like.
And I think in the documentary, they say that Columbine happened 6 months before the concert.
It was right around there. Yeah.
And like, I don't know. I just was like, God damn it. My childhood sucked. Like it really, because I was in high school.
Right.
During Columbine.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Me too.
Me too. Well, and also the dark side of that is like that would be Tuesday now. Like, don't they happen constantly? We don't even hear about them.
Right. Right. And we're just waiting for a good guy with a gun to come along.
Well, and it's all just hired actors pretending to be
crisis actors. That's what somebody called those cops, those Capitol Police, was these are just crisis actors performing a script for Nancy Pelosi. I have no hope anymore. Let me just talk about this for a second, because I was thinking about this a lot this week.
Let you get a word in edgewise.
Yeah, well, no. I feel like this show is always about like, oh, Amber, what's going on? Amber, checking in. Amber, what is your opinion about this thing? Amber, tell us more about dressage. So maybe I can talk a little on this episode.
Sure. I see. Better make it interesting.
We'll see. I was first thing I was thinking about Norman Lear this week, because Norman Lear turned 99 years old this week. He had his 99th birthday on July 27th. And that's a lot of years, you know?
It's a lot of years.
And obviously we all know a lot about Norman Lear's career, but there's things I didn't know about his career. Like I looked at his Wikipedia page and I was like reading through stuff. Like we all know how much he was involved in the sitcom scene in the 1970s. And, you know, I guess this is not what I learned from his Wikipedia page, although I think there's a reference to it on there. But All in the Family, I learned this from the CNN show about sitcoms. All in the Family, they shot the pilot 3 different times. They shot the pilot once. They didn't like the kids. They shot it again. They still didn't like the kids. They shot it a 3rd time, and they kept the kids, which was Rob Reiner and Sally Struthers. So
good choice.
As it turns out, it was just interesting. Like, here's Norman Lear's first big pilot, and they didn't get it right away. But the network still gave them chances to try again and try again.
I feel like that doesn't happen anymore.
No,
right?
They're like, we know we have something here, but this is not quite right. It just was really interesting. But anyway, so he did All in the Family, and he did the Jeffersons and Maude and every other fucking thing. And then started a movie production company, which is something that I was not fully aware of, only because in the Wikipedia entry, it was like he started this movie production company and produced 3 Rob Reiner films: The Sure Thing, Stand By Me, and Princess Bride.
Oh my God.
And like, I was always a fan of Rob Reiner as director because I loved those movies. I mean, those were right when I was in high school and college, and those were some of my favorite movies at that time. But I didn't realize Norman Lear was involved. Anyway, the thing that I thought was really interesting in his Wikipedia entry was that he said that he was inspired towards advocacy. Like all of his shows have an element of like social justice in them, like people should get along and the things that keep us apart are less important than the things that bring us together. Class and race and and he's always been very into all that. And I just thought it was interesting that he talks about how the reason he got into advocacy, and he got very involved with a group, I don't remember the name of it, but he founded some group in opposition to the moral majority back in the 70s and 80s. And, but he heard a sermon from Father Coughlin when he was 9 years old. And I don't know if people know who Father Coughlin was, but Father Coughlin was a Roman Catholic priest who had a weekly radio show I think he was Canadian, but he had a weekly radio show here in America in the 1930s. And he was very, he was a Roman Catholic priest. So he advocated all the things that Jesus advocated, like anti-Semitism and fascism. Like he was very pro-Hitler, very pro-Mussolini, and very anti-Semitic. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic when I say that those are the things Jesus advocated, because there were Jews Jesus didn't like, but as a people, he was kind of okay with them. I'm sure there had to be some he didn't like. I don't know for a fact. His whole
deal was just be cool to everybody, and it's weird.
There had to be somebody where it was like...
Except fuck that guy.
Yeah, he's like, they're like, Lord, here comes Phil, and Jesus goes, oh Jesus, But anyway, Father Coughlin, and so Father Coughlin, I knew who he was. Like I've heard of him. I don't know a lot about him, but I have an long dead elderly relative who I know was a big Father Coughlin fan, and that is a thing that people have. Like
posters? Like what?
No. Just listen to him all the time. Okay. Like listen to him and yeah. President of his fan club. Always went autograph hunting. No. Just like listen to his show every week and thought what he said made a lot of sense, And it's that is exactly something that elderly relative has always been denigrated for, is like, the thing you need to remember about so-and-so is that she was a big Father Coughlin fan back in the 30s, But, Father Coughlin, I mean, he was Tucker Carlson before Tucker Carlson, right. He was a, I don't know if it would be expressed this way, but he was a white nationalist, pro-fascist, anti-Semitic, hater of everyone except the right white people
who were already in your group.
So he was Tucker Carlson, and he was Tucker Carlson. I mean, Tucker Carlson gets the best ratings on cable news, right? And what does Tucker Carlson get? 3 or 4 million viewers per episode. And Father Coughlin got 30 million listeners every week. Like that's how many people he had listening to his show. Yeah. So it's kind of crazy. And then finally, I guess in 1939, when the war started in Europe, they took him off the air. They were like you can't. Yeah. No more.
Well, sorry, it's hard Father to Coughlin. Be pro-Hitler while people are getting shipped off.
When the Blitzkrieg has begun. Yeah. Although it would be 2 more years before the United States got involved. But anyway, all of this, the reason I was thinking about Norman Lear in the first place was not just because of his birthday, but because in 2001, this is going to sound very self-aggrandizing, and I don't mean it that way, and there's a reason I'm bringing it up. 2001, I did my one-person show at the Aspen Comedy Festival. It was a very big deal. that was back when I knew my career was really taking off. And then apparently the plane had some technical issues and we've been stuck on the runway ever since. But it was really fun to go to Colorado and be treated like an artist and have like a pass that got me into anything. And I got to see Steve Martin perform, and
oh wow,
just like it was very cool. But probably the coolest thing that happened to me while I was there was I did my show. My show was called Taught, and it was about my experiences as a teacher in my first year of teaching. And I came off stage and I was leaving the theater, just walking through there was no way out except because it was like in the basement of a hotel. It wasn't really a theater. It was just like a conference room in the basement of a hotel. And I'm making it sound small. It was huge, but it was still, there wasn't like a back door to get out, There
wasn't an artist entrance.
Right. So I was walking through the audience. Most of the audience was gone. And somebody was like, "Hey, Norman Lear is here. Do you want to meet him?" And I was like, "Sure." So I went up and I met Norman Lear, and he was like, "That was wonderful. I really, really loved it. It was so great." Like whatever, like he just was so kind and so effusive about this thing that I had put my heart and soul into. And so I would accept that from anybody as a huge compliment, but to get it from Norman Lear, the king of sitcoms, was very, very cool. I just thought and he was just a young lad of 79 at the time, like he was
spring chicken.
He was just getting started. So that was one thing that I was thinking about this week.
I want to connect an idea real quick, just to make sure. So he listened to that father
when he was 9 years old. He heard that guy and was that guy seems to hate Jews, and I'm a Jew. That doesn't seem fair that he gets to go on the air and talk terrible things about Jews. I hope that I can someday be someone who
the opposite,
gets to say something nice about, Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because otherwise...
Because we didn't ever actually
I feel like my brain goes in 11 different directions at once, and people are like, what the fuck is he talking about? So yes, thank you for clarifying that. I wrote down a quote that was in his Wikipedia article, which I thought was so funny. He goes, "My dad had a brother, Jack, who flipped me a quarter every time he saw me. All I wanted was to grow up to be a guy who could flip a quarter to a nephew."
Aw.
That's what I want too. But I can't afford a quarter right now.
Oh, man.
And imagine how much a quarter was worth when Uncle Jack was flipping them to young Norman. Like that was in the 30s. Yeah, that would have been like a $500 bill, But here's another. This was just a little detail that I thought was so incredible that was in the Wikipedia article. So he starts out his career and he wants to be, I guess he was like a publicist. Like his father had been a publicist. And so he was like, this is what you do. You publicize other people. Or no, sorry. Uncle Jack was a publicist. And he was like, this is what you do. This is how you get money. You become a publicist and then you can flip quarters to your nephew. So he starts as a publicist and he moves to Los Angeles to be, he's like, this is a great place to go. I can go here and I can be a publicist and whatever. His first night in Los Angeles, he somehow ends up at a play. I don't know where. It's like a George Bernard Shaw play. And one of the actors in the play is Charlie Chaplin's son. So the son of Charlie Chaplin is in this play. And so, of course, Norman Lear sitting in the audience. In front of him is fucking Charlie Chaplin sitting in the audience. The play ends. Charlie Chaplin goes up on stage and starts performing. Like, imagine that's your first night in Los Angeles is you show up and it's, I don't know.
But also poor Charlie Chaplin's son. Like,
right.
Give me this one night, man.
Thank you. Dude, I just did Pygmalion. Can we just revel in that for 5 seconds instead of you?
Be on me?
Why did you let him bring the derby and the cane? Please. But anyway, I just thought that was such a fucking wild. Do you remember what your first experience in Los Angeles was? I mean, you grew up out here, so you were here all the time as a kid.
all the time. But yeah, no, not really. What is yours?
Well, I mean, my first experience. Funny you should bring that up. My first experience was going. What made
you think to ask?
I didn't even think of it till right now. I should have written it down. But my first day. It was not my first time in Los Angeles because I had come out to visit a few times before. But my first day when I moved here in 2004, when I committed 100% to this is where I live now. I sublet an apartment from a guy who was working at the Comedy Store. So I had to go from the airport. So I land at the airport. I have to go to the Comedy Store to meet this guy and get the keys from him. And I go up to the office at the Comedy Store and he's not there yet. He's coming in and I'm just sitting in the Comedy Store main office and in walks Pauly Shore, who's with a couple of his, whatever weasels. Is that what we call them? But he's got a couple of people with him and they all walk in and he's talking to this guy, he's talking to that guy. And he looks at me and he goes, "And who the fuck are you?" And I was like, I'm in LA, some showbiz asshole treating me like shit because he doesn't know who I am. Welcome to LA. Big difference from seeing Charlie Chaplin perform, which would have been much more fun.
I would say that Pauly Shore is our generation's Charlie Chaplin.
That's a good point.
I couldn't get through it.
No. I think you have a good point.
Amazing filmmaker.
I would say that. What was the movie he did with Brendan Fraser? Or the other one where he was in the
Encino Man.
Encino Man, yeah. I would say Encino.
Biodome. I could go on. This was my
second one. The second one I was thinking of was Biodome, but you nailed the first one, which is Encino Man. I would say Encino Man is right up there with The Great Dictator as far as classics go.
I will watch Son-in-Law right now.
Biodome is very similar to City Lights. They're both, of a piece.
You could tell that he was inspired by.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't direct a single thing, though, right? Pauly Shore.
Oh, he must have. I'm sure he must have at some point, or he's starting tomorrow or something.
Sure.
So here's another thing. Well, let's do checking in. I'll start. How about that? Because I feel like I get it. You have a lot to talk about it, but at a certain point, it's enough is enough. Let me say something. Sure. It's we're almost an hour into this now, and it's enough, Amber, enough.
Not even.
So I got a text this week, a random text from a number I was not familiar with, which usually leads to instant deletion.
Sure.
But text was is this, my name? I won't say my name because I'm trying to keep it on the down low.
Sure.
But
that's private.
Is this so-and-so?
Blank, blank, blank.
Yeah. This is your cousin, thus and such. And I was so anyway, of course, I spent half an hour texting back and forth with my cousin who was trying to get in touch with me, pretending it wasn't me and fucking with her and whatever.
I like how you say, of course, as though
what else would I do? What else?
Just say yes.
Yeah, but that's not.
Is something the matter? Is that why you're texting me?
That's not my MO. But anyway, ultimately, and this is I have a lot of cousins, and a lot of them are really great and
bragging,
really fun. But
this isn't one of them.
Huge fan of the show, by the way. Listens to every episode, but yeah, she's not. No. It just was so great to hear from her. Anyway, she just was texting she had been in LA and had not. I haven't seen her in a couple of years because this is one of the people that I go to Virginia with every summer and have done so for 40 years.
Oh my God.
But haven't seen her since the last time we were in Virginia. And anyway, so she just wanted to make sure it was my number. And I was like, so I called her. I immediately called her and was like, hey, am I calling too late? Because she's not in this time zone. We ended up having a conversation for like an hour on the phone.
Aww.
And basically, it was mostly she was calling to say that things were going well for her, which was great.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I mean, because that has not always been the case. And so this was mostly a conversation about this is happening now, this is happening now, this is happening now. All these good things are happening because, you know, like I said, I haven't talked to her in a couple of years, and I felt like I feel like the last time we talked, this is not where you were at in your life. And now, you know, this is great. But all of this is not the point of the story that I'm telling. The point of the story is that while I was talking to her on the phone, I went for a walk through my neighborhood. I was like, let me just get out. I do that sometimes. Like I think I've said several times on the show, and this is not bragging, but I have been working out like a motherfucker over the course of the last 5 months. But I do that every other day. And then on the in-between days, I just try to go for a walk for 45 minutes or an hour.
So smart. So smart.
Just like an easy ramble.
Great for your heart, head, soul.
Spirituality, everything. Yeah. So I go for this walk. I'm talking to her on the phone. I have to excuse myself a couple times and just go, just so you know, I live in a very hilly neighborhood, so I apologize for my heavy breathing. Yeah. And I'm coming back down the hill right outside my house. I'm 50 feet from my front door. And I step on a crack in the street. Oh, no. And I don't know how to say it, except I go down like I've just been shot. Like I just face plant.
Face first?
As hard as possible.
Ugh.
Slam the phone on the ground as I'm trying to, like, as I'm falling, I slam the phone on the ground because I just flailed both hands down, you know.
Oh my God.
Let me see if I can send this to you so you can share it on screen, because I did take a picture. I fucking ripped my knee open. Anyway, she doesn't even notice because I guess the phone doesn't make noise like that.
Oh, weird.
So she just keeps talking.
Oh, God.
Do you see the thing I just sent you in the chat? So I'm face first. I'm like flat on the ground. And, you know, just to make it clear, I think people get this by now, but just to be clear, I am a big person. This is not like a potted plant tipping over. This is like a redwood toppling in the forest, you know? Like this is a huge fuck up. Boom, big noise. I'm sure I made some kind of like exclamation of some sort. I landed flat on my face on the street. I'm bleeding. I'm checking, you know how you like do like an inventory, like is anything broken? Is anything? And I could tell right away nothing was broken. I was like, how badly sprained is my ankle? I definitely just turned my ankle. How bad is it? Doesn't seem that bad. But then again, who knows? There's adrenaline pumping right now. I don't know. But part of me.
Can you see that?
Yes, I can. That's yeah, there's my knee.
That's upsetting.
And as you can see in that picture, I purposely have purchased a pair of, they're not like gigantic boots, but I'm aware that the neighborhood is filled with terrible streets and that my ankles have a propensity for giving out in those situations. So I thought wearing those type of shoes would prevent this from happening. It did not.
No, yeah, also, there's true ankle support. I see it. You're not wearing flip-flops.
No. I purposely have, they're not, like I said, they're not they're not high boots, but they're definitely mid calf or mid whatever. But anyway, also you could take that down now, but boy, oh boy, look at the muscles on that leg, huh? But so part of
that was
me,
so much work. I'm so proud of myself.
and so worth it too. So worth it.
We're in.
But part of me was like, thank God nobody saw that. Like there
like
was just
that would be the worst part.
Well, it was just like, it would be embarrassing, you know, it would be embarrassing for somebody to see me fall that hard. Like I'm just a fucking middle-aged man wandering down the street, and then I go down like that. Like that's not good.
Are you okay? Like, are you sore? Are you able to
Do
walk?
I seem okay?
I mean, walking.
Don't answer that. Don't answer that.
I'm not going to.
But wait, so here's the point of what I'm getting to is I say to my cousin on the phone, I'm like, I just fucking wiped out so hard. And she's like, oh my God, are you okay? And I'm like gathering myself. I have to get up then. Like I have to like, you know, well, is everything okay? Like
it's scary.
Fucked up. Well, I wasn't scared, but I was hurt. Like I could see that my finger was bleeding and my knee was bleeding, and I had scraped up both my hands and whatever. So I stand up, and I see a guy like 20 feet away, just looking in the other direction.
Good for him.
No, not good for him.
Okay.
Because he doesn't know I'm okay.
You might be dead.
I could have been really badly hurt.
Okay.
And he just chose to ignore the whole thing. So I start walking again. I walk past the guy down to my house. He says nothing. And I'm like, this motherfucker just, I could have broken my face. I could have broken my leg. I could have been badly injured. Maybe I had a heart attack. He doesn't know what happened.
Right.
He knows something happened, and I went down, and he could not be fucking bothered to investigate. He wanted nothing to do with it. And that really bothered me. Like, I was like, what kind of fucking world is this? Yeah. That somebody can just go, not my problem. Good luck, motherfucker. Anyway, my point is, be like Norman Lear. Don't be like that guy.
Okay.
Go out of your way to be nice kind to other people.
Yes. Check
instead of going out of your way to ignore other people. Because that's where we're at this point. So that's my checking in, is there's people in LA who are thoughtless. I know what you're saying. Like, you're like, good for him because at least he didn't embarrass me. But my point was not that. My point was like,
no, I get it. I get your point. You just had said that I hope no one had seen this.
Right. And I guess the thing, again, because my brain goes in 11 directions at once, the connection there is, it made me feel even worse that somebody did see it and didn't think it was a big enough deal to even
like, are you okay?
Yeah, to even go like, hey man, you okay? Which I would have been like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm embarrassed. I'm sorry.
Look away.
Yeah, right. But to not even get that reaction just bummed me out so hard.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what the fuck do we have if we don't have other people looking out for each other? Totally. Know? I mean, I have clothes, I have shelter, I have food, but I mean, I don't know. It was a bummer. It was a huge bummer.
I'm sorry.
It happens.
That's a bummer. But how are you physically feeling right now?
Well, of course, the worst part is waking up the next day and realizing all the muscles that you pulled and strained and whatever. So it was like, I was like, oh, my forearm hurts, my finger hurts. Muscle, yeah. And here's the other part of it is like, you know how they always talk about like eating is an emotional thing. And I'm always like, I don't care. Like sometimes I feel like eating this. Sometimes I feel like that night
I need
after
chocolate.
after I got home, I was like, I have this salad I'm supposed to have for dinner. Like I made myself a salad for dinner. Fuck that. I'm going to the supermarket and getting fried chicken and ice cream. So I went to the supermarket at 1:00 in the morning because I was like, I don't want to eat a salad right now. I want these other things, just because I fucking flattened myself on the street on the way home.
It's scary. I know you said that it wasn't scary, but I find falls like that, the physical fall, the pain is one thing, but it's also just this like real deal reminder that like, oh, I can break at any minute. Like that's the scary is what I'm talking about, of like, oh, that could have been even worse than it was.
Right. Had I not had gymnastics training and known how to fall flat on my face like that, like that's how you're supposed to break those falls, is with your face,
The nose really.
Right. That's what you learn in gymnastics is like, but yeah, anything could go horribly awry in that moment, and the other part of it is that is not the first time that has happened to me. It's the first time in a number of years, but like, I have always felt that I have had, like, I don't know what you want to call it, but like weak ankles, in other words, like a crack in the sidewalk will fuck me up and has since I was a kid. Like I'll go down,
You're not a figure skater.
No. So I was like, is this, like you said, it could happen at any time. Like it could, you never know. Like, especially the way the fucking roads are out here. I'm very aware of the fact that going for a walk on the street out here, it's like a topograph. Yeah, it's fucked up, Anyway, hopefully, but I did have that thought the next morning. So I get up and I'm like, oh, that hurts. This hurts. I did do something which I don't ordinarily do. I didn't like ice my ankle or anything, which I probably should have. But I did very, very carefully wash my knee because I've just done that so many times where I didn't watch it and it gets infected and there's like dirt in it or asphalt or whatever.
And it's so painful.
So I didn't, it still hurts, but I think it could have been a lot worse if I had not really, really gotten into it that night, But I woke up the next...
rest, ice,
compression, elevation. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to do it.
No, I did...
the opposite.
I did epic.
Jumping jacks.
Yeah.
Heat.
But I did have the thought the next morning when I was waking up and like sort of going, oh, ow, oh, and then like slowly limping into the kitchen to make coffee. I just had a vision of myself in 25 years of like, this is what it's going to be like every morning.
Oh, man.
Like, this is what I have to look forward to. All right. Checking in. Amber.
Should we take a break or?
Yeah, sure. We'll check in with you after the break and then we'll do parting shots. And
perfect.
Then after that, we'll do the after show and then
we'll be here all night.
Yeah. All right. We'll take a quick break and then we'll be back with more of this horrible series of events for me. Series of unfortunate events like Lemony Snicket. All right. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody. I hope you're enjoying the show. Thank you so much for listening. Amber and myself are taking a little break right now. And I just wanted to let you know, here's a teaser. Spoiler alert. Get ready for next week's episode. I think it's going to be a doozy. I guess we'll see. Now, back to our show. Snickering, lying, or bickering. Who stole what from whom first? We're back. You're listening to The Long Shot. It is a podcast, and I know this is a weird episode where we heard a little bit from me this time.
Oh my God. He's zooming like crazy. I wish that you guys could see this. He's like doing donuts behind me.
Oh my
Smudgy.
God.
His name's Smudgy. I have to put $1.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Jeff.
I gotta put $1 in the swear jar. I promised to not bring up Smudgy today, but I already.
Right.
Just to myself. I feel
right.
like I'm boring talking about him constantly.
Well, let's get back to normal and just hear more from Amber on this
Going
episode.
on and on and on.
Yeah. So checking in, Amber, what's going on with you?
Yeah, I think I mentioned this on the last podcast. I had to work a screening of Guillermo del Toro's Trollhunters: Rise of the Titans.
The director of Birdman, or no?
No, unfortunately, no.
Mm-hmm.
He did win an Oscar.
Yeah. For what?
But not for Birdman. For oh no.
Pan? Was it for Pan?
No, this is when my brain is bad, but like Fish Guy lady has sex with Fish Guy.
The Shape of Water.
The Shape of Water.
Mm-hmm. Guillermo, we read your script and we really like it, but
we don't love
the title. The lady has sex with Fish Guy. We can't sell that.
Can we at least have correct punctuation and like grammar? So that's what I did on Sunday, and it was really intense and really surreal because I didn't even realize this ahead of time. But that was my first time going back to a movie theater.
Mm-hmm.
So it's my first time going back to a movie theater. I'm seeing a bunch of people from work that I have not seen in a year and a half in a completely different context. We're in a movie theater on the West Side. So that's already like, I'm in a mall and there's a
West Side.
Yes, that's there's a mall and a movie theater, and I don't go to malls. I don't go anywhere. I do not go anywhere.
Oh, me neither. I went for a walk the other night, and well, I don't want to interrupt you. You should go on.
Enough, Sean. Enough. So I'm in like an echoey mall, and there's a movie theater. And then
what theater was it?
The Landmark on Pico. It's like right across the street from Apple Pan.
I don't think so.
Yes, it is.
Pretty sure it's not, but go on.
My least favorite game you play. It's just like gaslighting for gaslighting's sake.
Who knew that a game I like to play 15 years ago would turn into the national obsession?
So yeah, I'm already there. I'm already in a theater.
Wherever you actually were.
Yeah. Sure. I am lying about it to seem cooler? ?
Across from the Apple Pan.
Have you ever eaten at the Apple Pan?
I think I have. I can't remember. Do they have good burgers there?
Yeah, that's their whole thing.
Yeah. I've been there once. Didn't care for it. Also, it's not where you're saying it is. But anyway, go ahead. Stupid. Anyway, so you're seeing all these people.
I'm seeing all these people, and also, like, for example, one of them is now my boss and has not ever been my boss before. Like,
who were they before?
The head of DreamWorks TV marketing.
Not somebody you were involved with.
Right. I knew that.
You have changed jobs, so they are now your direct boss.
So it's weird to be like, hot. Like, and we're all wearing masks, obviously, because COVID.
LA is just exploding with COVID.
It's back and better than ever. And and so we don't have even a relationship in real life.
Was your previous boss there as well?
No.
Because that would be fun too, to see your old boss and go, well, and fuck like, you, Charles.
Right. Can't wait to do that next time I see him in person. Just fart right in his face.
Amber, I am wearing a mask, so that did not affect me as much as you might think it would.
This feels
By the way, do you know where the Apple Pen is?
It's not here. And it was a screening And so already I feel like I have hearing problems. When I'm in a setting when there's like background noise and foreground noise, that's the best way to describe it. I have a hard time.
So you're saying when you're in a place that's occupied?
Yes. I have a hard time hearing people like, and so this was that. It was like a cavernous,
right.
And we're all wearing masks, so I can't even like pick up on lip reading,
visual cues.
Yes, yeah. And like I want to do this new job well. Like it's something that this week has been just a lesson in like, let that go. Like you're gonna be bad at it for a while. Like it's okay. But I want to be so good at it. And so my new boss is like, have you worked any Comic-Cons or screenings? Or he like listed off a bunch of things. And I'm like,
ever been to a convention, a scout meeting? Maybe Amway. You sold Amway at some point. You had to go to the lectures.
But he basically, it felt comical, like a sketch to me, where he kept presenting things that I was like, oh wow, here's more evidence of why you shouldn't have hired me for this job.
Have you ever been on the PTA or your condo board? Maybe a neighborhood association of some sort.
Have you met a single other person before?
Have you belonged to any organizations? Did you have a clubhouse as a kid, perhaps?
And so I was like, I haven't, but I'm like ready to work and like roll up my sleeves and tell me what to do. Quick note, because we were there to do social media. I was like, quick note, I don't have a company phone. And I'm not logged into any of the DreamWorks accounts on my phone. So I'm not good for anything right now. Like, we got to figure that out. And he's like, not a problem. Like, I've got an extra company phone. It'll be fine. We're just waiting for one other girl, Emily, who then we're going to work out the plan together. We had like an hour before the screening was going to start to do this. Somehow Emily went to the wrong theater. Who knows what happened?
She was at the one across from the Apple Pen.
Sure.
Fucking Amber. God damn it.
So we finally sit down to be like, okay, here's the plan. And I swear to God, it was like, okay, you do that. And then Amber, you also like, you just do that. And then let's go. And I was like, I think we're afraid to ask questions. So we're like, got it. And then I sat down and because we're doing social media for the event, we have to sit in the front row of the theater. And so I'm just sitting there having a full on panic attack because we're wearing masks. There's a crowd. Like, I can't just easily be like, hey, what? Like, what do you want me to do?
And what does that mean, doing social media for the event? Like, what does that entail?
Well, there was a Q&A after. And so we were going to like record the filmmakers' answers and post them and that kind of thing.
IG Live, like that kind of shit.
Exactly. Yeah. Very similar to that. But what I was told is, this is so boring and in the weeds, but we have different social
It's okay
channels.
because I wrote a song parody about your job, but go ahead.
You did? Already?
Yeah.
Can you do it?
Well, I want you to finish your story first.
Something's not.
All right, I'll do it. I'll do it. You ready?
Yeah.
Here it goes. And I don't know anything about your job. Like, I know now that you're...
Me neither, turns out.
It's to the tune of 16 Tons. Do you know that song?
Yeah.
That old work song?
Uh-huh.
You load 16 tweets. What do you get?
Right.
Another day older and deeper in debt. I really can't do this all alone. They won't even give me a company phone.
That was good. That was good.
Thank you.
Had doubts at the beginning, but you won't.
No. There's a punchline. Yeah.
The punchline came first. Am I wrong?
There's no punchline.
Okay. So
It was just to get to the company phone thing. That's
what I mean. That's where you started the writing.
I thought you were saying in the song, like the punchline was at the beginning of the song. No, that's where I started the writing. As soon as you said company phone, I was like, this fits with company.
That's what I was saying.
Yes. Okay. I am so sorry.
Sorry, I called that a punchline. I'm sorry that I
interrupted your soliloquy. Please go on.
Oh my God. I don't want to talk.
I don't believe that for a second.
So we sit down and basically what's decided, we have different social channels and Emily was going to post everything directly onto the Tales of Arcadia page.
Hi, Amber. It's Emily again. I don't know why you're not picking up, but I am outside the apple pan where you told me to be.
And then I was supposed to just reshare those on the DreamWorks page. And I was like, great, can't wait. Let's do this. That sounds easy. I understand that.
Reshare is much easier than the other part.
Right. Oh man, this is so in the weeds. But it was stories. So I go in. Oh, and it was like a fucking clusterfuck circus clown car to even get me to the DreamWorks Instagram account because he handed me the old phone, but it was an old phone. It was so old that like it was like not recognizing the Wi-Fi.
How old was it?
Recognizing the Wi-Fi, and
you started with a punchline.
I kept being like, I'm loading it, but nothing's happening. Like it was, and then he was like, okay, log on your personal phone. And I was like, I turned my phone off because that's what I do in theaters. So like I'm like frantically turning on my phone.
Not having a good first week, Amber.
and he was like, here's the passcode. And it was like the Constitution. And I was like, can you hand it to me? Like
it's repeating decimal pi. Right. Forever.
Right. I was like, I'm in too stressful of a state. Like I need it. So he handed me his whole laptop and I'm putting in. Anyway, I got in, but it was like, it didn't go great. It wasn't a smooth sailing.
The Mission Impossible theme is playing the whole time.
Ding, totally.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah. And then I'm in and I was like, I'm in. All I have to do is.
Boss, I'm in.
All I have to do is reshare these stories.
Right. I bet that did not work out exactly how you thought it was going to.
You can't reshare stories.
No, you can't.
Unless she tagged the other handle in it, which I guess we could have done that, but she didn't. So I was just sitting there being like, okay. And then we aren't supposed to post during the movie, obviously. So just the whole movie, I'm like panicking. And my new boss is sitting between me and Emily. Because the whole time I'm just like, I have to figure out.
So Emily is there by now.
Yes. Emily's the one posting. And I'm the one
supposed to. She's just side-eyeing you like, why did you give me the wrong directions?
Right. And her belly was all full of good burgers. They
are good burgers.
You said you don't like them.
No, that was me being her.
Oh.
No, wow. They're not. That was me being me.
You really?
What are you doing here in the theater? You're not a part of this.
You really disappeared in that role. I really believed you. That is impressive.
I find your sketches confusing on the show. I never know who's supposed to be who.
That's the note I consistently got on every one of my sketch teams is like, you're not really playing a character. And I'm like, but I'm such a good actor, right? Like, don't you believe that I am that person, even though it is just me? Anyway, I sort of played characters, but I wasn't like a Chris Farley. Anyway, so I'm just sitting there like panicking.
I don't think he's the best example, but go ahead.
Phil Hartman?
Much better.
Thank you. I think, okay, Phil Hartman is my favorite of all time. I think my brain went with Chris Farley because it's such a stark contrast. My energy is so grounded and he's so consistently big. But yes, I would agree with you. He doesn't disappear into role.
He's kind of doing the same trick every time.
Sure.
I mean, that's not fair to him, but that is kind of he does his thing, whereas Phil Hartman inhabits the role.
Yeah. Who is that guy?
Which is why it was so scary for him when he started doing news radio. He was like, I don't know if I can do this. play one character consistently.
Oh, is that true? Did you just make that up?
No.
Or is that true?
It's true.
The real deal with Phil McNeil. Not feel. Anyway, this is so boring. This is not an interesting story.
We're not even at the end. I want to know what happened. So what happened? You're trying to share things. You can't share them.
I'm sitting there like
Emily's furious because she had a burger at Apple Pan when she was supposed to be at the goddamn Universal showing.
So I'm having a panic attack.
Guillermo del Toro is checking the social page of Universal going,
right,
where the fuck are my stories? This doesn't work for me.
And I'm fully panicking. And also it's a real problem I have. And I think you suffer from similar problems.
Too tall? You're too tall?
Way too tall. This job is forcing me to confront is like, I don't like asking questions. I don't like asking for help. I like to figure it out myself or suffer the consequences. I don't want to be a burden to people, I guess.
No.
Right? You feel the same.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Absolutely.
So I was like, okay, this is my first time working with my new boss. And like, maybe there is a way to share stories. Like, that's also what I was panicking about is like, if I'm like, hey, how do you share a story? And then he really will be like, why did I hire this girl? She doesn't even know what Instagram is.
Let me look back at her resume. Let's see. Special skills, juggling, riding a bicycle, occasionally driving a car nervously. Doesn't say anything. She really doesn't know anything about social media.
So yeah, my brain went to some of like the worst case scenarios. Yeah. Like this might be an obvious fix and I don't know it and it's really embarrassing.
Well, and for me, I would go one step further than that, which isn't like this might be an obvious fix. My brain goes to there absolutely is something I should know right now, and I am being fucking stupid for not knowing this.
Totally.
You know.
But okay, so also it's my first time in a theater, which is intense.
Mm-hmm.
Front row. And you know how some theaters, the front row is a good distance back? This is...
No, the front row is always in the front, Amber. I don't know what you...
No, but I mean...
Front row is never back behind things. It's always in the front.
What I mean, I've been to theaters like the ArcLight where even the front row, there's still sort of breathing room.
I think you're not familiar with what a front row is. The front row...
No, it is...
Of all the rows, the one in the front, that's the front row.
No, it is always the front row.
Must be in the front row. You know the commercial with Bob Uecker?
No, nobody knows that.
There's definitely at least one person listening right now who knows that commercial.
So sometimes there's the front row, and it is the first row, but it's
always the first row.
Oh, at least let me finish. But then they leave like a good distance, like a soccer field before the screen, so that this front row isn't dead.
Okay.
They didn't do it at this theater. Mm-hmm. It was the front row, maybe 3 feet, and then the screen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a sci-fi action adventure. So it was like, oh, like I haven't seen a movie.
And how were the speakers? Was it like surround sound, or was it just like?
I think it was
not so bad.
Normal. I mean, everything felt loud and big, but I also was panicking. I was also just like, how do I share a story?
And you have a hearing problem, so
right. So I was like, I don't hear
loud and big. Yeah.
But I like calmed. I was really proud of myself. I sort of was my own parent or something where I was like, Amber, chill the fuck out. It is just an Instagram story. Like, we'll figure it out or we won't. Like, no need to beat yourself up or freak out about this. So, and I was like, you're just going to ask Emily to send you her posts. I was like, great. And so as soon as the movie ended, because she had sent posts of like screenings about to start that I was supposed to share.
Right.
I had to like lean over my new boss and was like, hey, Emily,
ow.
Can you send me all of those posts as soon as possible? And she's like, great, what's your phone number? Like everything was the worst. Like we didn't know what the fuck we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
But we did that. We got there and then the Q&A started.
Oh no.
And the thing about being in the front row, Guillermo del Toro was 2 feet away from me the entire time. It was pretty intense. And it was cool. And people were so excited.
What were some of the questions? Can you talk about it? Or does it, I mean, it's all on social media, so I feel like there's nothing secret, right?
It was a condensed Q&A. I think everyone on the panel got one question, and it wasn't from the audience. It was like predetermined questions.
I see. So it was fake.
I mean, they answered questions
that they had decided it was okay to answer. Like if we really wanted to get to the bottom of this movie, we would have to really pry into it.
Yeah, we have to get to the bottom of this children's film.
Who knows what's going on, you know? I don't know if I want my kid watching this.
But the Q&A was after the movie.
Oh, that's why I didn't bring my kid.
And they gave out prizes, and Guillermo del Toro like had a raffle by seat numbers, and they gave out signed posters, and it was great, but it was very, very overwhelming. And
was there a lot of kids there?
Yeah, it was a good mix of kids and adults. I think there's just like Guillermo del Toro fans.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, all of it was just so surreal. And then to drive home, I don't know. It was just so weird. And it was a Sunday night, so I guess I worked 6 days this week.
Oh,
or I will
hello,
tomorrow.
Time card.
I'm salary, baby.
Hello.
It doesn't
hello,
mean anything.
Overtime.
I don't get overtime. I'm management.
1.5.
But yeah, also
you can buy me a company phone.
I think it all was fine. Like I haven't heard anything negative about it. I'm sure people weren't falling over.
She didn't even know how to share stories. Like, you know, there's a way to share stories. Also, she told Emily to go to the Apple Pan.
But I think I told you that I'm going to a department where I'm filling in for someone who's leaving, who is a manager. The person, did I mention this before? The person who's the director, who would be above me, already left. And then Emily, the graphic designer for social media. Yeah. Oh, also, I talked to Emily afterwards because she was so confident, and she's like, I had never done this either, and I was freaking out. I was like, okay, there it is. Like,
fake it till you make it. You know?
No one knew what was going on. But Emily also recently got a new job, so I'm moving to a new department
with somebody who's also new and no boss,
with no one above me, no one below me, no one to the side of me. like my direct boss shouldn't be my direct boss. He's like the head of TV marketing.
He's a couple levels up.
Yeah, but it's going to be a cool opportunity to work so closely with him, and for
are they not replacing the boss that's supposed to be there?
They are, but it doesn't happen overnight, like the bureaucracy of corporations. So he's pretty convinced that it's going to be just the two of us till September. But yeah, I'm excited. I
just wrote a song parody. Want to hear it?
Can't wait.
Goes like this: just the two of us. We should hit the Apple Pan. That's it. That's the whole. And I started with the punchline on that one.
But yeah, I'm excited. Again, I have delusional confidence. I think the back half of last year, like before we even started recording the podcast again, my work life was so hellishly impossible in ways that are hard to describe.
Right.
That I'm like, if I could get through the back half of 2020, I could do this. Like, let's do it. And I'm kind of excited to possibly do a good job and impress him directly. So,
and it also seems like this was, like you said, the first time you were doing this, and it feels like once you sort of get the hang of that stuff, it will become not easy, but like at least you'll know exactly what you're supposed to be doing all the time.
Exactly. And my new boss has been really, really amazing. I'm excited to work with him because we've had a couple one-on-ones already via Zoom, obviously, but they've just this is so sad what I'm about to say, but like they've been conversations between two adults, which I didn't realize.
You're saying I'm like this?
No, I didn't realize that could be a working relationship with your boss. I have a great relationship with my current almost former boss, but it
status was not equal.
Yeah, and it took me a really long time to earn him talking to me the way he talks to me now. Like he started off kind of talking to me like he was talking to kindergarten students, and I was like, you don't actually need to do that. I understand what you're saying. But like I know nothing about this new job, and already it's very like we might be tearing the whole system down of what has been done before and starting afresh, because I asked, like, why do we do it this way? And he's like, that's a great question. Maybe we don't need to. And so it's that's exciting.
By the way, I wrote a song parody about you.
No.
You want to hear it?
Sure.
It's a Hall & Oates. It's a parody of a Hall. It goes like this. One on one, we're gonna Zoom like adults tonight.
Oh God, that sounds filthy. But also he's made it very clear, and I appreciate it because I do have that perfectionist, I don't ask questions quality of like, he's like, your things are gonna slip through the cracks. You're gonna mess stuff up. That is fine. I am here for you. I want you to be okay. Like, this is the time that
I've seen your work history, Kenny. Things are going to go badly much of the time.
No, but I feel like I've had bosses before where it's like, yeah, things are hard, but like, you better not fuck up a single thing. Right, and it's like, woohoo! So I don't want to mess up anything, but it's just nice to even hear that sort of permission to like learn and fail and all that good stuff.
Right. Well, that's good. I mean, it sounds like things are going in the right direction.
Because Monday marks my first day in the job without training wheels. Because Alex, the person who I'm replacing, has her last day's tomorrow. So this whole week, I've been trying to be the active manager, but I have her, like, if I do get confused to ask a question.
You're still trailing. You're not on your own yet. You don't have your own section.
Exactly. And now I'm like, well, I think she showed me so many things once that I was like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Surely all next week we'll have multiple examples of that, and that will really be drilled in. But no, that one time was the one time. So I was like, hey, can you show me that thing again? I didn't really take the demonstration as seriously.
No, I'm sorry. We only ever do everything once here. Nothing ever repeats. It's the weird thing about this job. Well, that's good. So next week is the big week.
Yeah, and we've had a lot of meetings with vendors that have been hilarious because truly the person who was answering like the big questions was the person who will be my manager who doesn't exist right now. So even the person training me was like, I'm at a loss. So I was like jumping in being like, strategy might change and we'll come back to you. Like it was a lot of like, wow, I was good at BSing in high school and that skill is coming in handy.
Hey, that's part of being management, You have to bullshit people.
But they all know the circumstance I'm in. So I feel like all of the agencies I work with have like reached out and been like, Amber, if you need anything, like we're here for you, which has been really sweet.
Attention, entire company. Please contact Amber Kenny and tell her that if she needs help, because she will, that she will get it from you.
Right. And training my successor has probably been slightly more difficult. It's brought light that because I kind of undercut my job of like, oh, it's easy. Anyone could do it, blah, blah, blah. And then when I'm actually showing it to somebody, I'm like, oh, there's a lot more nuance. I'm making choices on the fly because she's asking me a lot of questions and I get it. she's coming from a position where it's like you just do what you're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, when they ask this, what do you do? And I'm like, if you want to this, but maybe ask that person. Like,
look, there's no right or wrong answer. Okay, sweetheart. Look, I got to get out of here. I got a whole other job to do with no boss. I got nobody above me, nobody below me, nobody on either side of me. So enough with the questions, huh?
Oh, and also zero experience. Let's also throw that into the mix.
Listen, Toots, I hate to tell you, but you're on your own here. They say no man is an island, but welcome to Universal.
But I think it's going to be good.
Well, that's great. All right. Well, why don't we do a segment on the show that we like to call Parting Shots? So I guess, if you don't mind, I'll go first. I'll do try to make it quick. Yeah, I'll try to make it quick. I actually don't have anything really. Although I will say I was watching a video before this. Silly videos are so ubiquitous at this point. I don't know if you know this in social media, but
it's like my whole job is to spend thousands of dollars.
And this actually was not a silly video. It was really distressing.
Oh no.
But totally what you expect to see all the time now. Let me try to describe the situation, then I'll tell you why I found it so hilarious. Are you going to describe
a commercial again?
No. This is a video. It's different from a commercial.
Some would argue commercials are videos.
Well, let them posit what they will. I will disagree.
What? You could probably watch a commercial via video. Am I wrong?
Where's the Apple Pen? Anyway, this was just a Karen video. It was like a woman who, this is one of the things that was funny about it. She had parked her car poorly, like slanted into a spot. So she was way too close to the white line between spots. So her driver's side door was way over close to the other spot. And then somebody had pulled into the spot very much far enough from the white line that they were completely being fine.
Normal.
But she was furious that this person was blocking her in, I guess because she couldn't get into the driver's side of the door.
Oh.
So her way of dealing with that was she was not going to let this guy drive away. Like she was blocking his car so that he could not drive away. And I don't know.
What is wrong with people?
I couldn't figure out if she was she calling the police or something? Like, I don't know what she was doing.
Yeah, like what's the end goal?
She was blocking this guy in. And she was very angry. Or actually, she didn't even really talk the whole time. And she was a white woman. And I guess, I never saw the driver of the car, but I guess the driver of the car was a black man. So now there was a racial element of she's only doing this because he's black. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's certainly how the people who were observing it were taking.
If cops do show up, there is an inherent.
But again, I don't know that she was calling the cops. I couldn't figure out what her plan of attack was.
She might not have had an amazing.
She was blocking this guy from getting out. And eventually what happened, the video was 2 minutes long. Eventually what happened was an African-American woman came over and basically boxed this woman out, physically shoved her out of the way and held her out of the way and was like, go, get out of here. Leave. And the guy,
want him to leave, then you can get in your car. What is the end goal?
Who knows? But the thing that really made me laugh was the guy who was filming it was he was shooting the whole he was just filming her, but he kept on saying, and I couldn't understand what he was saying because of his accent. He kept on saying, they sell knits on Amazon. You should get a knit. If you had a knit, you'd be able to get out of here. You need a knit. And I was like, what what knit is he talking about? Like, is he saying there's like some kind of thing like frictionally she can put in between that will let her into the, and it wasn't until the very end of the video that I realized what he was saying was, you don't have a neck. If you had a neck, you could get out of here.
Oh,
like
my
that she was
God.
overweight and that's
Oh
why
my
she couldn't
God.
get out. So he was telling her, and he was literally
To
saying,
buy
like,
a neck on
they
Amazon.
sell necks for $27.99 on Amazon.
That doesn't even make sense.
It was so funny, and yet so negative, so awful. You know, the whole situation was just. But I get in a sense. I think she was completely in the wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But I do get irritated when people park too close to the driver's side door. She fucked it up in this case.
But like preventing them from leaving, how is that helping?
Doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
No, I think she was 100% wrong. But at the same time, that is a problem when, like, I went down to downtown LA last week.
Bragging.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not just an uptown girl. I'm also a downtown girl. I've been living in my white way world, you know. Anyway, I wrote a song parody about it. I parked in a parking lot down there, and when I came back to my car, somebody had backed into the spot and parked so close to my car that I almost couldn't get in. I did, but I had to squeeze through the door, and I thought, it didn't turn out to be true, but it felt like I ripped a couple of buttons off my shirt as I was squeezing into the car. So I was upset by that because I was not like her parked in a diagonal way. I was parked exactly where I was supposed to be. And so anyway, I blocked that car in for like 4 hours. I stood behind the car and they never came back. They never came back during all that time. I was blocking them in.
You had to get somewhere.
I had to go home. I had a curfew.
Yeah, we have a parking spot here at the apartment, not to brag. And originally they said we had 2 parking spots. But then when we got here, like, there was only 1 left. It's a very small building. It's only four units. And it's not official at all. Like, in spray paint, it says the unit number on the parking space, and they're little. And so there was only 1 that said ours, and that's fine. We're a 1-car family. I liked the idea of having 2 spots. Like, if my parents are visiting, or like, I just like the idea of, you know, not having to have people look for parking. But it's just 1. But like, again, the way it worked out. So there's a huge van that we park next to, like huge, like comically big.
You're not talking about one of those little vans, are you?
No,
like a little van,
like a big guy. And then it's our little car, and then the woman who lives diagonally upstairs, she parks in between 2 spots. She like parks on the line between 2 spots, and like, both spots say her apartment number, like, so fine, but it's just hilarious because sometimes I have to like squeeze in by the van to get into the passenger side, and she's just like luxurious. Like, I get it. We're the newbies. They've all lived here forever, but it feels like something's up, and I feel like they aren't being cool to us.
Here's the thing. That defines Los Angeles to me. That there's always somebody trying to fuck somebody else over in some way. And whether it's like purposeful or whether it's just like, I don't give a fuck about that person, it's still fucking somebody over, you know? And the parking spot is like the perfect metaphor in Los Angeles because parking is such an issue out here. And it's like, there's always somebody getting away with some shit.
Have you ever lived someplace in Los Angeles without a parking spot?
I did for a little while when I lived with Eddie. We were not with Eddie,
again.
It was a nightmare. It was a nightmare because we had to find spots, and there were, it meant like coming out at 7:45 in the morning to move the car because it was an 8 to 10,
Well, and there's an extra level of insanity and pain when you come home at, midnight, 1 a.m. from a show. And like, that's my apartment. I can see my apartment.
Oh, driving around looking for a spot.
But I can't get out of my goddamn car.
It's a nightmare.
Like it makes you start losing your mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
So never again. And, and we don't go anywhere. So like, it wouldn't even be an issue anymore.
It's funny because this is making me think of two things. One thing is, in my building, there is a storage room. And everybody is supposed to get a certain amount of space in the storage room. You get, 8 feet by 10 feet in the storage room.
That's a lot.
I'm sure it's not that much, but like whatever it is, it's you have your certain area and you're allowed to keep your stuff in that area. And people just don't abide by that. And so when I went to put stuff down there, there was no room. And even since then, they've cleaned stuff out. And it's like, I don't know whose stuff this is, but we can't get rid of it. And there's no space for you to put anything down there. Now, my choice was to go, well, it's probably better that I'm not putting stuff in storage anyway, because if there's stuff I can put in storage,
then I should just get rid of it.
Get rid of it. Like, who gives a fuck, because otherwise it's just going to sit down there for 5 years, whatever. Still, my sense of justice is activated by that. And I get irritated by it. This is not fair. This is unfair. Totally. Things should be more fair. And the other part of that is I do have 2 parking spots in my building, and I love it because I only use one of them most of the time. And so it's very easy for me to get in and out of my space. And when I have had, when I have had various roommates, some of them have had cars and they have a space now and whatever, and that's good. And when I have people visiting, they can park in my space when they're staying over here.
Because parking in your neighborhood is very difficult. Yeah.
But here's what I was going to say. Again, this is why parking is such a good metaphor for LA. I got an email from one of my neighbors the other day that said, I am leaving town from August 1st to the 15th. I have people staying at my apartment. They need both my parking spaces. Would you mind if I put my car in your second space? Can I put that in your second space as of August 1st? And I was like, sure, no problem. I'm a good neighbor. I'm going to be a good neighbor, and
And you don't need that space right now. And
I don't. I may have people over this week, but there's also guest parking. It's fine. But in the back of my mind, I was like,
I would never ask that.
No. I was going to say, like, I wonder how this person is going to try to take advantage of me. Like, in other words, I've said yes, I'm fine with it. They're going to push it somehow. They're going to push it further than this. So today I went out to the Apple Pan because I was trying to see Trolls 3. It wasn't there.
It's not a movie.
Troll Hunters 11. I got home and the car was in my spot. Like, in other words, it wasn't August 1st yet. It's the 29th of July. But even though I said August 1st, you said yes. So I'm in there, And I'm just like, I don't know how to argue against that, but that was not the agreement. And it made it more, the way it was parked made it more difficult for me to get into the spot. And I'm just like, anyway, there's always somebody trying to fuck you in some way in Los Angeles is my point. And parking is such a thing that there's something around that all the time. That's my parting shot. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I think we touched on this last episode, but I am worried about the Delta variant and the resurgence of COVID-19. I'm like nervous to talk about this, but it is what it is. My parents have plans. I think they still have plans to come up to the States in August. They have doctor's appointments.
Do your parents know about what it's like to have your dick inside a duck and somebody chops the head off the duck?
Maybe. Now it's a duck. That's cool.
Well, that's what I was saying before. I'm not sure. Like in my head, it might have been. I did say chicken, but then I said it might have been a duck because I can't remember. And I feel like a duck would make it more elegant. Like it would be more elegant. But I feel like a
chicken makes more sense because
chickens are wilder.
Well, and also, isn't there a thing about like you cut a chicken's head off and it still runs
running around with its head cut off? Yeah, there is. So maybe it is a chicken. We'll have to look up.
So hot.
We'll have to look up. Have you ever seen those chickens with their heads cut off?
Ooh.
Hello. Va-va-va-voom.
I'm sorry, Mom and Dad.
I'm gonna slip into something more headless.
But yeah, they're planning on coming up to the States in August, which I'm so excited. I haven't seen them since February of 2020.
Right.
It's been a very long time. I miss them like crazy. I'm endlessly jealous of people who talk about their different trips with their parents or like going to see them. And I get it. Like it's easier and it's better. And it's like, I understand logically, but, and my parents are in the best place for them and they're so happy and they're so safe, but like, I miss them. And it's weird. It's weird, having like not knowing when I ever will see my parents again.
Yeah.
And that sounds so dramatic, but truly that is how
There's so much going on right now and we don't know what any of the answers are.
Right. And so they're planning
where this is all going.
They're planning to come up in August and
you're vaccinated and they're vaccinated. So those are positive things.
Right. This is where we get to the tough stuff.
Right.
They would be staying with my brother, who is not vaccinated, and his children who are not vaccinated. And I don't know. It's like, it's so tough because I want to see them so badly, but they're in such the safe bubble and things seem so unsafe and confusing and horrible right now. It feels insane to go a year and a half doing these stringent measures and not seeing each other and being as safe as possible to just like let it
go, fuck it.
Yeah. And
we'll be fine.
And
I agree.
Like my parents are older. Like they fit all of the criteria of the people who are in danger. And I get it. I get it. I think they're even split about it. I shouldn't be talking about this podcast. I hope I don't get in trouble with them. But like, I think
I'll speak to them if you want.
My mom, I think, feels the same way I do. Like she's like, yeah, it feels like it might not be the best time.
Right.
My dad, and I get it too. I get it. You know, he had major heart surgery in 2016 and hasn't been to a heart doctor in 2 years. Like he's starting to freak out about that.
Right.
Like it's stressful no matter how you slice or dice it. So, and
his doctor is up here.
Correct. So
that would be part of the trip, would be to see a heart doctor, which ironically puts him in a more risky category.
It's like this weird, fucked up puzzle. So yeah, I truly don't know what's going to happen. They also have such an ambitious plan because they want to come up. They have they have a week of doctor's appointments, like back to back, like every day a doctor's appointment.
Mhm.
And then they want to visit Jeff and I in LA, see our new apartment that they've never seen, meet Smudgy, who they've never met, and then go back to Mark's house.
Good luck finding parking when they come to visit.
True that.
Mhm.
I mean, we'd probably park on the street, to be quite honest. Then go back to Mark's house. I'm sure have more appointments or whatever, and then host a family reunion of both my brothers, all my nieces and nephews, and they told me about all of this, and I was thinking it was over like a month or over 2 months, but they're like, no, 2 weeks, and then we're out, and it's a lot. Like, I'm young, and doing one thing now is so overwhelming and exhausting.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot picture my two parents who are both 70 plus.
Mhm.
My mom just turned 75. She looks great. I hope that my genes kick in the same way as hers, because she
What brand?
is gorgeous. Right. But
I bet they will.
I hope. She's already taller and thinner than me, but whatever.
It ain't all about that.
But the fact that it just sounds exhausting. Their trip sounds so exhausting for me,
Mhm.
and I'm not in my 70s. And also, they have been basically sequestered. Like, they've had a couple friends that they see, but they're in the middle of nowhere in Mexico. I think just the culture shock of being in the States
It's going to be a lot. Yeah.
is going to wipe them out. So, and I get it. They don't want to stay here a long time, and they have a lot of appointments, and they have a lot of people to see, but I don't know. It feels too ambitious to me. I don't know. So we'll see if it happens.
It's hard. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to, I mean, what we did talk about last week is me thinking about going to Virginia or not next week. And I'm still up in the air about it. You know, I had a conversation the next day with one of my brothers for a long time about it. And then I had a conversation with one of my consigliere in New York, you know, old friend who's really smart and thinks about everything. And she has a kid who's dealt with long haul COVID, and, you know,
Oh, wow.
talked to her about it for a long time. And I still am not at a decision point, you know, because I think there's so many factors and so many unknown things and so many, and I think really it just comes down to, you know, what you feel comfortable with. And that's tricky.
Right. And because it changes day to day.
Mhm.
It's not, it would be easier if it was coming from on high.
Right.
But it isn't.
Well, don't
Okay.
you come here with your Fauci.
Don't take away my freedom.
I do think that's kind of hilarious. Yeah, only because it's not hilarious. It's fucking awful. But the fact that the debate is you have no right to tell me what I can do with my body is coming from the right wing.
I know.
Is 100% about
against
you're not
abortion.
allowed to have an abortion.
Yeah, I know.
It just, the fucking pretzel logic of these people
to do
is
it
so
with a
insane.
straight face. Yeah.
It's so insane. And there was all the fucking idiots on parade today in the House of Representatives going into the Senate and talking about how they shouldn't be masked.
I know.
Whatever. What a fucking time to be alive.
But I know I didn't really dive into this, and it's not my story to tell, but I think my mom, I had a suspicion that my brother wasn't vaccinated and wasn't down to vaccinate, but we didn't talk about it directly. And my mom asked directly this week. That's how I know for sure.
Right.
And I know that it kind of broke my mom's heart, like in a way where it's just this, like,
And there's no chance that they will get vaccinated before your parents come to visit.
I don't know. I don't know. But it's like, well, now I feel like we're too late.
Right.
Even if they got vaccinated, it's not in
It might
the
help a
window.
little bit. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's
Well, this was a thing that I talked about with my consigliere in New York the other day, because, like I said, she has teenage kids, and one of her kids had a friend come and stay at their house for a couple of days. And then I don't remember even how it came out, but after the kid went home, I guess her son was like, "Oh yeah, he's not vaccinated, by the way." And she was like, "What? Like, why would I even have to ask that? Why would I not know that?" You know?
Right.
And so we were talking about how it's a weird thing where it feels like you're not allowed to ask people if they're vaccinated or not.
Right.
Where a thing that I heard from her, and I had actually heard this the day before in another context, and it was something I had never heard before, but it totally makes sense, is that parents now have to ask, if a kid is going to stay at somebody else's house, they have to ask, no, they have to ask, is there a gun in the house? Is the gun loaded? And is it locked up? That's just a thing that you ask people on a regular basis. And it feels like vaccinations should be the same thing. It should be well within your rights to ask other people if they're vaccinated. And it doesn't feel like that's an okay thing to ask right now, you know?
Well, and I know that it is frustrating enough to be like, those people won't get vaccinated. It's like a whole other level when it's like,
people you know.
My son won't get vaccinated.
Oh, like, I see. Yeah.
Like, I can't get through to him.
Yeah, that's really fucking hard. That's really hard. And you know, there's this whole thing. We talked about this a little bit, but there's this whole thing of like, don't make fun of people. Don't shame people. Don't criticize them for not getting vaccinated. Understand where they're coming from. And I'm like, fuck that. Right. Fuck that. You know, like enough is enough. It's funny. So all these people that go to Virginia, there's a whole group that are my mother's generation that are sort of the parents of everybody that started this whole thing. Well, she grew up, you know, when she was a kid, her father was off in World War II. And so was her mother's sister's husband. So the two sisters moved in together. So she kind of grew up in the same house with some of her first cousins, and they were close the whole time she was growing up. So these are her first cousins and a couple of her first cousins' college friends. And my parents are the parents of the several generations after who have all been going to this place for 40 really years. Cute. Yeah. So they have the grandparents Zoom now on a regular basis with everybody from her generation. So one of the grandparents, who is one of the Denver people, one of the people I stopped off to see on my way back from New York, because I just love these people. And he sent an email saying basically what we're saying, like, there's a lot of shit going on. And is anybody like, do we want to reapproach this? Do we want to have another discussion? There's lots of smart people involved here. Do we want to get people's input? And I'm not saying we should or shouldn't, but you know, whatever. Like, it's also
right. And
I was not on that email, but she forwarded to me the email that she sent back to him, which basically said, you know, totally understandable if people decide not to come with everything that's going on. Jack and I, that's my father and mother, are still going to go because we're driving down, so we feel okay about going. None of the people in our family have balked yet or decided not to go, except Sean maybe thinking about it. He also seems to be getting a little upset with people who won't get vaccinated at this point. Like,
a little upset. That's a very sweet way of putting it.
She's like, he keeps saying if people would just follow the science. But anyway, I just thought that was funny that she sort of toned it down a little in her email to the grandparents. But yeah, it seems outrageous at this point. But but it's all very tricky, and who knows what the right answer is. If I decide not to go and nothing happens, I don't know for a fact that something would have happened if I had gone.
Right. Well, and like, this is dark, what I'm about to say, but like, I would like to see my parents again. I don't know what will happen in life, in health for anyone.
Right.
But I also don't want to see them again to risk their life. Like it's like this weird math. I don't know.
I mean, part of the equation for me is I'm like, well, if I don't see everybody in the beach, you can't be in the beach. You could be on the beach. I guess you could be in the beach. Like if you bury somebody in the sand. Yeah. If I don't see everybody at the beach, I will see everybody at Christmas time, because it has to be over by Christmas time. But
we said that last year.
That's not a fact. That's just a hope. So who knows? And the other part of that is, yes, if I see everybody at Christmas time, that means I will see everybody in my immediate family. It means I won't see the other 50 people that might be in Virginia, including this aforementioned cousin that I had this great conversation with this week, who I would love to see, and all the people of that,
right.
of that ilk, I guess.
Right.
And one of the things I talked about with my consigliere is she was not 100% at this point yet, but a friend of hers was, basically another person with lots of kids and also with lots of intelligence, basically was saying, we're all going to get it at some point. Like, we're going to get it. It's just a question of when and how bad it's going to be.
Yeah.
And I get that too, but part of me is like, I don't want to be the one who brings it to the beach and gets everybody sick for that week that they have together. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I get that we're all going to get it and most of us are going to be fine, and that's fine. And maybe we should just get through that. Anyway, it's all
totally. And I just want to go back because it's something that I realize I haven't expressed out loud. But when I tell people that I haven't seen my parents in over a year and a half, I guess I'm just looking for people being like, oh, wow, that sucks. But
people have answers?
No, almost 100% of the time, it's nothing. I got like they changed the topic, and maybe because it's like too painful for them to imagine that for themselves, or I don't know what it is, but it's weird and it happens very consistently.
Have you seen a show called? Just kidding. I was just changing the topic.
No, but you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. That is weird. I don't understand why somebody would do that. Like, it seems like
all you have to say is like, oh, fuck, that sounds hard. Like, that's it. That's all I'm looking for.
I thought what you were going to say, because I feel like this is how people are a lot of the time. I thought you were going to say is like,
my parents for this amount of time.
No, that they would go, oh, you know what you should do? You should drive down there and just stay at a hotel for 2 weeks near them, and then and it's like, no, that's not what I'm looking for, and that's not what I'm saying.
Right? No, like, it's not even that.
I don't. Subject seems bizarre.
I don't. Yeah, I truly, I can't figure it out.
Were you saying this to people during Troll Hunters 3?
No, yeah, it was while Guillermo.
So maybe they didn't hear you. Yeah.
No, it's very strange. It's like happened multiple times where I'm like, and I'm not doing it in a like my pain is more than your pain, but just like this is a hardship that I'm going through. Right. I don't know, like.
They're all being the guy outside my apartment. They're not being Norman Lear.
Right. Well, so many people from work are younger than me. So they all moved back home. And so they're like weirded out that I'm still in LA almost. I don't know.
So where do they live now?
All over, because we're working from Zoom. Like some people are on the East Coast, some people are up north, like all over.
So Universal has become Universal at this point.
Exactly. Until it isn't.
Right. So when are your parents supposed to come?
Great question. I think the second week of August.
Soon.
But my mom and I both talk in this like
Pidgin English?
No, like hippy dippy communication that you probably wouldn't understand or like. But I told her I
think it's cool whenever anybody tries to talk in whatever way they want to. I dig that, baby. I've
just said I don't see it happening. Like usually I can picture and I just can't, I don't see it.
What do you think would happen? That they would just decide not to come?
I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. Like it just, it's not even that I know what the answer is. I just keep trying to picture them in my apartment this summer and I can't do it. Like I don't see it happening. And I hope it does on some level. I wish that I had a mansion and they could just stay here and not go to my brother's house. Like,
and what's wild is the problem is not you guys.
Right.
You know? And it's not your parents.
Right.
That's a tough one.
Sorry, parents, that we talked about fucking chickens and all of your personal problems.
Horses too. And ducks. All right. Well, this is the long shot where we discuss the state of the world every week, and it's not good, and it's not getting better.
It's never good.
I think we talked a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember. I think we talked about when I saw somebody on TV, I think on CNN, talking about how Biden should beg President Trump to put out former President Trump to put out a public service announcement about how everybody should get vaccinated. Like, in other words, this guy was saying Biden should get down on his knees and pledge fealty to former President Trump and say, you will get full credit for the vaccine. We'll call it the Trump vaccine.
Honestly,
all those things, just tell people to get vaccinated. And like, well, but what was funny about it, I mean, it's such an absurd proposition. Like, of course,
he still won't do it, even if you did that.
That's exactly what I think it was Anderson Cooper. That's exactly what Anderson Cooper said. He was like, do you think that would really make him do that? And the guy was like, yeah, probably not. You know, and it would be weaponized against Biden in a way that
of like this pussy.
Weak, he's too sad. He's too, you know.
I have things to talk about Anderson Cooper next episode.
Okay, remind me. But the reason I bring that up is because I couldn't remember who it was last time who said it, and now I realize because I saw him again saying the same shit just a couple nights ago. And of course, I should have remembered who it was because I auditioned to play him in a movie once.
Oh, wow.
It was Frank Luntz, the Republican strategist.
Wow.
Who has sort of taken this role of like, I'm just trying to help. I'm just trying to, like, I'm just trying to help. And he's the worst fucking person.
Yeah, and it always has been.
Ugh. Anyway.
All right.
The long shot, everybody.
Have a good night.
See you next time.
Now nearly twice a day, I'm sure I'll evaporate. I have such a sinister thirst. I have to confess it's a miserable mess, but at least we've avoided the curse. And of all of the ways for you to get paid, this turn of phrase happened to take a turn for the worse. But sweet baby, I'm late this time in getting home. I stole the rhyme, but not the $sign. I've just resigned myself to living alone.